My son got bullied at school and cried, wanting to drop out. My wife, on the other hand, posted a video, graciously saying she forgave them. I rushed home from a business trip. Saw my son in the corner, trembling with a bloody mouth. My wife was gently applying medicine. I furiously asked her, "Why didn't you stick up for our son? Aren't you a mother?" She calmly replied, "Howard, I plan to leave with nothing. You and Tim can live well, and what I do won't concern you anymore." I learned about my son being bullied from the internet. I've been on a business trip for 2 weeks, constantly on the go. When the project slowed down, I finally got time to eat. A colleague showed me a video. "Howard, does this look like your son?" In the video, the boy, beaten with a bloody mouth and a missing tooth, cried about being bullied and wanting to drop out. I looked closely, and even though the video was blurred, I knew that voice. It was my son. I quickly grabbed my phone to dig into the story. I found my wife's account. In the video, she forgave the families of the kids who bullied our son. No accountability for the school or related authorities. Life goes on, kids need to attend school. Seeing this, I was fuming and called my wife, but she didn't answer. So, I messaged her. "Is this what you meant by me not worrying during the business trip? That you'd take care of Tim?" I told her I'm buying a ticket home now. You'd better have an explanation ready. After that, I booked the earliest flight. Told my boss I had urgent family matters and needed to leave early. I sent over the video. "My son's been bullied. I need to return home to handle it." My manager quickly approved. "Sure, head back, stay safe." I thanked him, got in a cab, and headed to the airport, non-stop. On the way, I kept replaying Tim's video. His cries echoed over and over. I raised him from a tiny baby, never speaking a harsh word. Once at school, he's severely bullied. The thought of it broke my heart. As the plane landed, I checked my phone. Saw my wife's message. "Let's talk at home." My anger was through the roof. My son, bullied to the point of missing a tooth, and she's saying no accountability? Fine, I'll return home and sort it. She won't pursue this, but I will. I can't be weak, letting my son suffer in vain. When I reached home, Tim was shaking in the corner. My wife was still applying medicine. Seeing my son like this, I was furious. I yelled at her, "Why didn't you stand up for him? Isn't he your son too? Are you a mother, Linda?" Seeing her tending to Tim, I refrained from slapping her to avoid hurting Tim further. She calmly responded, "Howard, I plan to leave with nothing." I couldn't believe my ears. "What did you say?" She repeated, "I'm leaving everything. You and Tim can live well without my actions affecting you." Stunned, I felt unease creeping in. I struggled to speak. "What are you planning?" "Don't do anything stupid. It's not worth it." She smiled softly, reassuringly, "It's fine, Howard. I've thought this through. The school's CCTV showed nothing, couldn't press charges. Even if we did, it's just a few $1,000. Anyone can pay that amount. These people aren't even planning to apologize, but I won't let it go. If they don't teach them, someone else will. If anything happens, and there's a big settlement, it'll help you raise Tim. The money will be yours. Howard, you'd agree, right?" I looked at her, conflicted deep inside. From school to wedding, she was my rock. After marriage, we longed for a baby but faced difficulties. Doctors said there were physical issues, making it a tough journey. We visited hospitals countless times, spending significant money on treatments. Finally, at 35, we had Tim. Even then, his birth was a struggle. We put in all our effort to raise him. Raising Tim took more love and care than a typical child. Tim is precious to our family, like a gem. In the end, I nodded, choked up, and said okay. Her response video was blowing up online. Criticism came, saying we weren't doing enough as parents. Even my parents found out from the web and called, asking how we were handling it. "How did our kid end up with such a mom?" they asked. I simply said, "I trust Linda. She'll give me a satisfactory answer." As the father, I focused on taking Tim for medical checks and treatment. Visited a therapist. During this time, none of the parents from those 8 kids apologized. I took a moment to visit the civil affairs office with my wife. That day, she filmed the divorce, leaving everything with nothing. With a 30-day cooling-off period. Someone asked her post-divorce plans in the comments. She casually replied, "I left everything, no money with me, probably set up a snack stall by the school to earn a bit." Among those 8 kids' parents, 1 or 2 got worried. They called her, apologizing and seeking forgiveness. She chuckled. "I'm not holding you accountable. What's the apology for? It's fine, just continue school." They panicked, quickly admitting fault. But she ignored, hanging up and blocking them. They asked teachers for help. But she still said, "I already said no accountability, focus on school." What? A stall? I can do what I want. Haven't started earning yet. Once Tim recovered, I resumed school pickups and drop-offs. One day a parent stopped me. Confused, I asked, "Hello, do you need something?" The woman smiling began, "Hi, Howard. I'm Vivian's mom. Recently, my child had a little conflict with Tim. I want to formally apologize. She was wrong. I've scolded her." "Come on," Vivian apologized to Tim. She pulled out her daughter from behind. The girl unhappily muttered, "Why only me? I wasn't the only one." Her mom pinched her arm hard, and she reluctantly said, "Sorry. Please forgive me." I took Tim's hand and walked off. Her mom was calling me urgently from behind, but I acted like I didn't hear a thing. She got anxious and came up to tug on my arm. Tim was so freaked out by this, he screamed. I shook her off hard, quickly crouched down to check on my son. The school entrance was bustling, and our little scene drew a crowd. She awkwardly put her hand down and started, "Howard, I'm really sorry. I just hope your family can forgive Vivian. It's just kid stuff, nothing serious." I comforted Tim, then looked at her from head to toe, suddenly chuckled. "Sure, if you let us knock out Vivian's front teeth, we'll forgive her." She flatly refused. "No way. They're adult teeth now. She'll have them forever. If her teeth are that precious, so are ours." I shrugged. "If you're not here to genuinely apologize, then don't bother. Come on, Tim, let's get home. Dad's making braised pork today." Vivian's mom snapped. "My kid already apologized. What more do you want?" I asked, puzzled. "Is there a problem, Vivian's mom? I didn't do anything, right?" She took a deep breath. "You didn't, but your wife wants to sell stuff at school." I spread my hands. "So what? She left everything to me, took nothing, making money's not an issue, right? She's still gotta pay child support. Nothing wrong with her hustling." She went pale with anger, voice rising. "It's just kid stuff. Why drag adults into it? If she's reckless, let's see how many lives she has to pay with." The crowd grew. Tim got scared and held on to me tighter. I squeezed his hand, letting him know it's fine. Then to the crowd, I said loudly, "Perfect timing. Everyone can judge this. You've seen the news. Our kid was bullied so bad he wanted to drop out. We already said we won't hold them accountable, yet they keep bothering us. What's your angle? Look at Vivian, she was part of bullying him. Is this right? Kindness has limits, so stop harassing us." The crowd murmured in agreement. Exactly, they won't hold a grudge and still get harassed. If my kid bullied someone like that, I'd feel ashamed. Or, if someone bullied my kid that bad, I'd see them pay. This talk hit Vivian's mom hard. She flinched, fearing this exact scenario. Vivian went red, spat. "Ugh, I don't even want to apologize. Mom, let's go," she shouted, pulling her mom away, and seeing the crowd, her mom hurriedly shoved her way out. Once they were gone, the crowd dispersed too. Back home, Tim hung his head, acting glum. I crouched, asked softly, "Bummed about what happened today?" "Don't worry. Mom and Dad won't let us down." Tim thought a bit. "Dad, will the bad people get punished?" I held my pinky up. "Pinky swear? We'll make sure they do. We won't break our promise." Tim finally smiled. Pinky swear, 100 years, no backing out. A month flew by, the online buzz faded. Linda rented a stall near school selling watermelons. She'd slice them up for curious kids walking by. With a smile, she'd say, "Eat my melon, but don't pick on my kid. Okay?" A few curious kids asked who her son was. She'd show a photo, this one. He almost dropped out from bullying. Help Auntie look out for him. All right? The kids would chime in, promising to watch his back. Besides the parents of the bullies being on edge, the other kids liked stopping by for melon. Soon, some school fights broke out. Turns out, the kids getting hit had bullied Tim. The fighters swore no one put them up to it, they just didn't like those kids. Teachers, frustrated, asked if I was involved when I picked him up after school. I patiently listened, cheerfully said, "Teacher, it's not my concern. It's not my kid getting hit. It's just kids bickering. They'll learn as they grow." The teacher tried to argue, sighed instead. I held Tim's hand respectfully as we said goodbye. "We're not letting it go, not for real. Everyone who messed with my son will pay back double." Of the 8 bullies, one named Jimmy got bit by a stray dog. He'd been dumb, tossing rocks at it on the way home. Turned out the dog bit back, gnawing on his hand. His parents tried to smack the dog off, but it ripped one of Jimmy's fingers clean off. Passers-by killed the dog and pried its jaws open, yet the finger was chewed and swallowed. They opened the dog up, finding a mangled finger inside. An ambulance rushed Jimmy to the hospital. His parents took leave from school indefinitely. The incident spread fast. School warned kids to avoid stray animals. Tim came home chattering about it. I listened, grinned, asked, "Does that make you happy, Tim?" Without hesitation, he nodded, "Yeah, but poor doggy. Didn't even bother him first. Then he got rocks thrown at him and was killed." I patted Tim's head. It was a wild dog. Even if not killed, it wouldn't have lasted long. Tim asked curiously, "Dad, how do you know it was a wild dog?" I was a bit surprised and showed him my phone. "Look, it's on the news." "Tim, remember, don't try to mess with random animals on the street. Okay?" He nodded obediently. The news said no one in the area admitted it was their dog. Jimmy's parents couldn't find the owner to get compensation. In the end, they had to pay for the kid's surgery themselves. Heard it cost tens of thousands. They reattached his finger. But the nerve's gone, so it'll just be for show now. Tim was happy and so was I. I said, "How about we eat out tonight?" "What do you want, Tim?" Tim yelled, "I want burgers." "Sure, let's go get burgers." This happened 2 weeks later. Out of 8 people, 2 got hurt. One had a head injury, the other lost a tooth. Steve was one, and the other was Vivian, who stopped me at the school gate before. They skipped the last class on Monday, climbed over the wall and left the school. The school gate was empty because class wasn't over. A local gang member was buying watermelon from Linda's stand. As he took out money, a $100 bill accidentally fell. Steve and Vivian noticed it and ran over to step on it on purpose. The gang member walked a few steps, then realized something was off, checked his pockets, and the money was gone. Turned and saw those 2 picking up the bill, about to leave. He hurried back to stop them, demanding they give it back. They didn't admit it and insisted the money was theirs. The gang member turned to Linda, asking if she saw them pick it up. She said she was inside grabbing something and missed it. The 2 got all cocky, accusing the guy of lying for being broke. Then Linda remarked which parent would let their kids carry big bills. Maybe it was picked up. Her words gave the gang member more confidence. He told them to return the money. They refused, even pushed and kicked him, trying to flee. Now he was livid. He grabbed the kids, demanding an apology and the money back. Both, spoiled kids, used to getting away with anything in school. No way they were apologizing or giving the money back. One kicked him hard while the other bit his hand. The gang member yelled in pain, slammed them onto the ground, grabbed a brick from the street and used it on them. One fell face down, got the back of their head hit. The other fell face up, got a brick on their face. After the beating, he took the money and ran. Linda slowly sat munching watermelon, watching it unfold. Parents passing by eventually noticed. Crowds gathered around the 2 kids. Curious, people alerted the security guard. He notified a teacher to come identify them. Teachers came, called the parents, and got an ambulance and police involved. The next day, cops asked Linda to come in. I was in the store having watermelon and tagged along. She was a witness. The cops caught the gang member. His name was Henry. Stories conflicted. The kids said Henry hit first. He said they kicked him first. Linda calmly said, I saw the kids make the first move. The guy buying my watermelon reacted. Parent argued, how do we know you're not siding with these thugs? Pretty suspicious it happened outside your stand. Maybe you instigated it? She shot back, why would I, an honest street vendor, instigate trouble for kids? The parent fell silent, annoyed, then accused. Last time my kid had a scuffle with yours. This is revenge. The attending officer said, that scuffle made the news. It was bullying. Lucky she didn't hold it against you. The parent quit arguing, sulking. Another parent snapped, how could you watch and do nothing while my kid bled? The doctor said if we were any slower, we'd be in deep trouble. I chuckled, is it illegal to not help? What if Henry went berserk and attacked Linda too? Linda chimed in, exactly. I got to earn a living for my son. It's called self-preservation. Ever heard of it? I remarked, karma's a real thing. Justice works mysteriously. The parents were outraged but couldn't do anything with the police there. The cop interrupted, all right, enough. The main issue is the conflicting accounts. If Linda testifies it was mutual fighting, each side handles their own damages. Steve's dad then said, hold up, that 100 was mine. Henry taking it is robbery. I want him locked up. Henry shouted back, it's my money. I was just reclaiming it. Vivian's mom scoffed, an orphan like you? Where'd you get that much money? What else do you know besides stealing? Henry angrily retorted, I collect recyclables. I don't steal money. The officer seemed torn watching this argument. Steve's dad yelled, oh sure, you don't steal, you just rob. Savage. Linda was amused, and I nudged her. She slowly raised her hand. Oh, I forgot. I installed a camera recently. Wanna check it? The cops took copies of the footage from that day. Turned out the kids had lied. The video showed the money falling from Henry's pocket and the kids going first. I shook my head. Impressed. Figured. So their folks didn't teach him right. They were red with shame. Wrongfully accusing Henry, they had to apologize and got a lecture before being let go. The three are young, ruled as mutual combat. Each pays their medical bills. At home, I handed $10K to Linda. Find a time to bring it to him. Poor kid really suffered today. In secret, don't let anyone find out. Linda nodded, got it. After these two incidents, some parents sensed something off. But they couldn't prove it. So how could they find anything? Some parents reached out through teachers. I got called into the office. They explained politely. Said they'd compensate and apologize to Tim. Hoped our family wouldn't retaliate. I looked scared. Hey, don't just go around accusing people like that. We're law-abiding, decent citizens. The parent who spoke seemed at a loss, unable to say anything. I continued, if you have evidence against me, you can totally report it. We'd cooperate fully. Also, your kid's been bullying my son for a while. Isn't it a bit late to apologize now? Vivian's mom, trying to keep calm, said, Howard, we talked with your wife at the start. She said not to blame us too much. I was surprised. Then why am I here? Isn't this already sorted out? Another parent chimed in, let's be frank. We all know what's up. Your wife's selling watermelons at the school gate because of this, right? Our kids have been getting into accidents. You really think that has nothing to do with you? There's this saying, it's easier to catch the thief than to guard against them all the time. We're here to resolve this. Our kids will apologize. Let's keep this peaceful for everyone's benefit, all right? I looked at the parent and smiled slightly. My ex-wife mentioned, kids are young and can't pay much. We don't expect compensation from you. Apologies, though. Your kids owe my son that. Someone tried to ease the tension. All right, let's get the kids to the office to apologize to Tim. The teacher called Tim and 5 kids over. Why only 5? One's in the hospital recovering their fingers. Another got a concussion, taking a break at home. Another one got a serious bruise and won't show up at school. The 5 reluctantly bowed and apologized to my son. Tim turned and just buried his face in my arms, refusing to look up. I tried to console him, but he burst into tears. I frowned. Seems Tim isn't satisfied with your late apology, so let's just skip it. I repeated, if there's evidence, go ahead and report it. If you're worried about your kids, maybe homeschooling them would be safer. My wife doesn't want our son bullied again. So, she'll be at school selling stuff for now. Don't like it? Fine, transfer your kids out. This school is the only prestigious one in the city. Parents go all out to get their kids in. How many would dare switch to an average school? As the dismissal bell rang, I grabbed Tim's hand and said goodbye to the teacher. As soon as we got out, Tim timidly asked, "Dad, I don't like them. Is that okay?" I chuckled, pinching his cheek. Of course it's okay. If you don't like them, we won't force you. How about trying a martial arts class? One parent made the decision to transfer their child. I got off work late one day and saw Charles's mom picking him up at another school. We exchanged numbers before, so I got curious and called her up. "Mia, it's Howard. Just wanted to ask why you transferred schools?" She sounded cautious. "Why do you care if we transferred?" I sighed. "What a pity, Mia. My wife said our business at Tim's school isn't good right now. Planning to set up at another school. If it's because of this, no worries. She'll soon leave anyway. By the way, where did Charles transfer to?" At a corner, I watched Mia's face turn sour as she tried to spot me. I hung up, rode my bike up to her, and said hello. She was on edge. "What do you want from us? Transferring isn't enough?" I smiled. "What's wrong, Mia?" "We're just moving our business because it's not doing well. Does that bother you?" She caught a subtle hint. "Is it money you want?" "How much?" I shook my head. "It's not about money. We're good people living honestly. How could we extort money?" Hurriedly, she said, No, we insist on compensating. How much do you think is fair? If you truly feel sorry, we wouldn't refuse. Maybe consult the police to see how to proceed?" She nodded. "Yeah, right. Let's settle this today. Let's go to the police station." I gladly agreed and called my wife to bring Tim. Both sets of parents convened at the mediation room. I stated, "We're not naming any amount. You set the compensation. There's no extortion here." Charles's dad first suggested $5,000 as compensation. I brought up medical bills for dental work and psychiatric visits, sighing, "Tim still sees a therapist regularly. It's tough on us." The second offer was $30,000. I softened a bit but sighed again. Ceramic teeth last 10 years. He'll need replacements. We're talking decades here. Charles's mom grew anxious. We didn't break his ceramic teeth. And there were 8 of them, so why blame us alone? I nodded seriously, right? If this isn't working, maybe let's break for lunch. They quickly stopped me, gritting their teeth, and added another $30,000. I looked at Tim, who nodded eagerly. We'd already planned that any compensation would go into Tim's savings. Part in a bank account till he turns 18, and part for him to use. Satisfied, I nodded. "All right then, let's do it." After signing the agreement, Charles's parents asked cautiously, "Howard, now that we've compensated, you won't trouble us anymore?" "You're joking. When did we ever cause you trouble?" My wife and I discussed it, and we think selling watermelons at Tim's school is convenient. We can pick him up and do business at the same time. I promised with a smile. 2 friends of Mia who weren't involved in the incident heard about it and came to me for compensation too. I let them name their price until they were satisfied. After that, no opportunities arose. A semester went by peacefully. The next semester kicked off with a school-organized spring outing. I packed Tim's backpack. It included lots of snacks for him to share with his classmates. There was also a leather slapstick, just in case he needed to defend himself against bad guys. I reminded him to listen to his teachers and not wander off. Tim agreed wholeheartedly. I was still uneasy, so I got him a phone watch. He left happily. During the trip, the teacher called me. Tim had gotten into a fight. I jumped up, accidentally knocking over a cup, making a loud noise. The teacher heard the sound and quickly reassured me. "Don't worry, your kid isn't hurt. It's the others who got hurt." Feeling relieved, I took my time, requested leave from work, and drove over. It was a bit far and taking leave took some time. Upon arrival, I saw them, the same 3 who had bullied Tim before. Their parents were also present. They each had injuries, crying like snotty messes, while Tim stood in front of them like a little warrior. The teacher was still holding the leather slapstick. I chuckled and asked the teacher what had happened. The teacher gave me a quick rundown. The 3 kids claimed they lost something and wanted to search Tim's bag. Tim refused. An argument ensued, and then they fought. One parent hugged her injured child, angrily saying, "My child was beaten up this badly. Teacher, we should call the police." Tim loudly interrupted. "No way, they just wanted my snacks and tried to take my watch, so I fought back." I asked the teacher if the fight location had surveillance. Sadly, the teacher shook her head. "We were in a field for free activities, and that area doesn't have cameras." Tim quickly handed me his watch. "Dad, I recorded it. Listen." The 3 kids, who were crying and shouting, suddenly went silent. The teacher looked at Tim in surprise. "Why didn't you show this earlier?" Tim confidently said, "Evidence should only be shown when both parties are present. What if their parents took my evidence?" I half laughed, apologizing to the teacher. "Sorry about that. Tim's just a kid." The teacher said it was okay, and I played the recording. In it, Tim asked them, "What do you want?" One said, "I saw a lot of foreign snacks in your bag. Be smart and hand them over and we won't hit you." Another chimed in, "Is that the latest model watch on your wrist? Let me play with it. I'll give it back later." Tim calmly asked, "What if I refuse? You think we're in school here? No one's watching us. If you don't comply, I'll start hitting," one said carelessly. Another added, "Yeah, your mom selling watermelons to scare us doesn't work now that you're alone. Go ahead, tell the teacher." My dad said if your mom lays a hand on us, she'll go to jail. Even if there's an investigation, we 3 will just say you stole our stuff. There's no surveillance. Be smart and hand over your things. Why waste words? Just beat him up so he behaves. If he cries, cover his mouth. Shortly after, the recording played a chorus of wails and cries. "What is this thing? It hurts so much. Stop." With an arrogant voice, Tim have the guts to fight without a weapon. What's the courage in using a slapstick? Call the teacher. Tim, you're dead. Tim attacked us all. Tim's voice replied, "You 3 ganging up on me and dare to say I shouldn't use a weapon? You guys crazy? What if I don't hit you with a slapstick?" My dad signed me up for a self-defense class last semester. "Don't worry. I won't need my mom to deal with you. I'll knock you down every time I see you." Then you could hear the teacher hastily approaching. The parent who shouted about calling the cops was now red-faced and speechless. I casually commented, "Sorry, teacher. I gave Tim something to protect himself, thinking he might encounter bad people. Didn't expect he'd use it for a fight instead." Tim seriously said, "Dad, I'll keep up with the self-defense classes and beat them every time I see them. There's also one in my class. I'll fight him every day." Before any parent could comment, one of the boys cried out, "Mom, I want to quit school. I'm scared I'll lose to him." The other kids cried about wanting to quit too. Seems like the slapstick hurt them too much for them to handle. I pretended to scold Tim. "What are you saying? You're scaring them to quit school. It's nice here, and there's so much time ahead. Everyone should focus on studies, not go down the wrong path." Tim obediently nodded and apologized. "Sorry, I spoke wrong. I shouldn't focus on fighting. Fighting is wrong." I politely looked at the parents. Seems like it's self-defense on my son's part. Does anyone still want to call the cops or file an injury report? Since I'm on leave, I'm free to go along. With the evidence, even if they reported, they'd only humiliate themselves again. I might end up just covering some medical expenses. In any calculation, I'd come out ahead. The 3 parents discussed among themselves and decided not to press charges. They only asked for my apology and some medical expenses. I readily compensated them $1,000. $1,000 in exchange for my son fighting back? Totally worth it. Tim was just as ready to apologize to the 3 boys. "Sorry, I shouldn't have hit you so hard. If it happens again, I'll hit softer." After things were settled, it was almost time for the spring outing to end. So I told the teacher I'd take Tim home. The teacher nodded, letting us go with our kids. On the way home, I praised Tim. "You're impressive, standing your ground. But remember, no bullying classmates at school. Self-defense is for protection only." Tim promised, "Don't worry, Dad. I won't hit anyone carelessly." Not long after, the three boys transferred schools. Their reason was fear of seeing Tim. The day after they left, Tim excitedly asked us, "Dad, Mom, now that nobody dares to bully me, when are you guys getting back together?" Linda and I exchanged smiles. Tomorrow.